Hi, everyone. It's Ellen White back again for our Sales Team Power Lunch. And today I brought back with me Daryl Dioso from Resource Management Solutions Group, and of course, Kareem Ayash from Blue Rhino Sales Solutions. Excited to talk to you today. We promised we'd be back with that second half about cold calling. So we're going to get right into that. Now, Kareem, you've had a lot of experience with salespeople. Tell me, I know that you're a fan of the script, but are there recommendations? You know, when you give a person a script for the first time, what would you like to see happen?
Um, Once the script is written, and sometimes a collaboration is best to be work between the sales rep and the mentor or the coach or the sales manager. In some cases, the sales rep would have to internalize it and would have to get comfortable with it. Again, we mentioned the example of a script for an actor. You can't imagine a script, an actor going to an act without a script, just winging it, on right on in the scene. So similar. This is very similar in the sales situation. The sales rep has to get comfortable, has to personalize it, as has to internalize it. But no matter how good a script is there, no matter how good the wording of the script, the more important part is the tone of voice that comes across. It's the energy behind the script. If there's no confidence, if there's no positivity, if there's no smile behind it, then the script is almost useless. It might sound repetitive. It might sound that somebody is reading. There has to be some level of conviction that is carried with the script. So I believe the first 5 to 10 calls, might not be the best calls carried by a salesperson. That's where the process of internalizing and personalizing the script and getting comfortable with it. So this is basically what I think of it.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. You know, as we say, it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. Although in this case, the words are vitally important too. So Daryl, you know, so is being mentally and physically prepared. So what do you recommend for salespeople when they're starting that day of calling? And we know that people listening today might be set to make 100 calls in a day. How do they prepare themselves mentally and physically for that challenge?
I've mentioned this before. My sales coach always used to preach, you don't have to like cold calling, you just have to do it. So that's my first train of thought is just pick up the phone and just do it and get on that horse and get the momentum going. Second to that, and it's a little counter what you just said about doing the 100 calls, right? I actually would rather give yourself a realistic target, maybe like 5, 10 calls per day, right? Something realistic, something you can really chunk out, right? And further to that then is be realistic in your expectations, right? So that's setting yourself up for success. This is not about a sale each and every time. This is not transactional. Think of it more as appointment setting or understanding their buying process, something that's more attainable, right? That should really be the goal. Because if you're always thinking about making that sale, that slam dunk, you are definitely setting yourself up for failure. Physical side of things, I like to stand. You know, there's a lot of energy going on, so you want to channel that energy. And it doesn't hurt to even warm up. Treat it like almost like you're going for a athletic competition. There's nothing wrong with stretching, nothing wrong with like loosening up your vocal cords. You're going at it, right? So limber up, right? Now when you're in it, the other mental side of it is have fun with it. You're there to make connections. You're there to make friends, right? And you're there to come across with sincerity that you're actually going to provide a helpful service, right? So really just have fun with it. The end though, with further to that is review. Kind of what did you do? What did you like? What could you change for the next call, right? So that you're continuously improving. So those are some of the things that just come to mind, when it comes to approaching a cold call mentally as well as physically.
That's really great advice, Daryl. I wish I had had that 30 years ago. You know, starting out as a new salesperson, we need sometimes to learn these things, or luck onto that great mentor. So I really appreciate that great advice. You know, I had call centers for a number of years, and we initially, when we started these call centers, 40, 50 people on the phone, dialing and dialing and dialing. They would just be manually dialing, plugging those numbers into the telephone, making those calls. And then we switched over to predictive dialers, so that our dialers or our telephone salespeople never got that, no answer. They were always connected with a live contact. And that seemed to, I've got to say, it seemed to really improve morale. It can be very frustrating if you're making, again, that 100 calls and you're getting 80 where there's nobody at home. So predictive dollars kind of changed the way that we did business in a whole lot of ways. And I think really stood to improve morale. Now, with those predictive dialers also comes the ability, in most cases, depending on what hardware, software you're using, comes that ability to listen in to your salespeople. So what do you guys think of that? Do you think it's okay to drop in and check on the calls of your salespeople? Do you prefer to sit beside them? What's your recommendation? What's the best way to monitor and coach our telephone salespeople? Either one of you.
Do you want to take that, Daryl, or?
I can go first.
Yeah, sure.
My thing is, I've never been a big fan of it, right? I'm not a big fan of the micro management approach where I'm listening in to a sales rep's call. It's because I look back on when I was doing that and I had sales managers listening in on my calls. It made me so nervous, right? Because I just felt like, and it was so unnatural, right? Yeah. And you could just see them fidgeting, and you could see like my sales manager, oh, you shouldn't have said that, and it just made it worse. I'd rather take more of a coaching, mentoring sort of approach, saying, look, this is how you should go about the call. This is some advice, right? And then afterwards, review together, right? There's nothing wrong with listening to the call if it was recorded afterwards together and kind of taking notes of continuous improvement. But to actually listen in, no thanks. I would definitely kibosh that.
Absolutely. Kareem, are you feeling the same way about that topic?
I second what Daryl is saying. In terms of back in the days at IBM, there was many options, and I'm completely sold. Don't get me wrong, Alan. I'm completely sold on listening or sold on taping, recording the calls. If somebody is listening back to what Daryl was saying, if a coach or a manager listening to my call, at the beginning it can be nervous, but and I felt nervous. I remember the days when I get an email saying, okay, let's do some calls, and we need to listen. Let's listen together on those calls. It made me feel nervous, but then I had a good coach and a good mentor at that time, and they made me feel very comfortable with that. And the way they did that is by the feedback. It was very positive and constructive feedback. And we put the call under microscope, and they talked about my strengths and the areas of development. So it was very constructive. Think of it as when you're golfing, if you have any handicap in your swing, one of the things that helps is videotaping yourself and looking at yourself. So I believe with the right coaching and the right mentorship, this could be a very important step in the development of sales team, especially when they're delivering a pitch or talking to the client on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm agreeing with you with both of what you've said. It's very, very vital that we kind of capture what that salesperson is doing, because to use your golf example, and this is not mine, it's a Tony Robbins golf example. I want to give credit where it's due, but we can be just like a millimeter off, and you can get a salesperson who should be, doing all things good, but they are consistently underperforming. So we want to look at, is it a phrase that they're using? Is it a way that they're saying things? So we can often be very helpful, in coaching. And I agree. I would find it very uncomfortable to have them sitting right.
Ellen, we lost you. Alan, we lost you.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna stop. So the first time, usually the first take would happen is successful with us. I don't know.